Welcome to a show where you will hear about how our liberty is being eroded by the very people that swear an oath to protect it.
Today, the president signed a big new anti-terrorism bill that would expand the government's ability to track down terrorists, but at some cost.
On this show, we will discuss many of the lies that the government that hates us, by the way, we will discuss the lies that the people in positions of power and influence spread every day.
And what is the best way to confuse children? Confuse them about their sexuality, confuse them about their gender, expose them to things that their little brains are not ready for yet. That is how they are confusing children. It is leading to chaos, and Big Daddy government, of course, can be there to pick us all up and take care of us at the end of it.
We will also talk about how current elected leadership at all levels of government has been corrupted by power and control, as well as discuss the types of leadership needed to correct our republic's course.
We the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government.
Providing assistance for the Ukrainians to defeat the Russians, that's the number one priority for the United States right now.
I am your host, Larry Linton, retired U.S. Navy Command Master Chief and prior Tennessee House of Representatives District 12 candidate, and welcome to the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast. Welcome to this week's show, ladies and gentlemen. As you can probably tell, I've returned home and I am recording in the Goat Locker studio this week. It is always a wonderful feeling being able to sleep in your own bed and enjoy the company of your family. As usual, it has already been a busy time since my return home Monday afternoon. The first thing I had to do when I got home, besides hug and kiss my bride and get in some snuggles with Harlow, was I got to drive my new truck. Not a joyride or anything like that. The first time I got to drive my new truck was to bring it back to the dealership so I could get my spray and bed liner applied. No worries though, I did and will be getting plenty of time behind the wheel of the Blue Beast though. After all, I have to get familiar with driving a much bigger truck than I'm used to as well. Then there was another VA appointment. I can't miss those. They are hard to get with my work schedule the way it is. Plus, the doctor I had to see has a regular office at the Mountain Home VA in Johnson City, and she only comes to Sevierville periodically. The stars aligned for this appointment. Then there was the East Tennessee Freedom Fest later that Tuesday evening. Empowered Sevier and Empowered Jefferson put on a great event. The lineup of guest speakers was, of course, phenomenal. There was Gary Humble of Tennessee Stands, Heather Fair, the former Blount County GOP Women's President, Catherine Austin Fitz of the Solari Report. Let me tell you, there's a lot of information out there about central digital bank currencies that she is an expert on, and everybody needs to learn from her what this will do. And then, of course, there was the man that has rebirthed conservative news here in the volunteer state, Brandon Lewis, the founder and editor of Tennessee Conservative News. If I have enough time, I will fill you in on some of the information I learned at the Freedom Fest a bit later in the show. But as I said earlier, it was a great event hosted by two incredible grassroots conservative organizations, Empowered Sevier and Empowered Jefferson. Empowered Jefferson made some more news last week that ties into this week's episode a little bit. I'll be saving that bit for later as well. On Wednesday, Denise wanted to visit the new Buc-ee's at Exit 407. She has never been to a Buc-ee's, and we decided to go as soon as we woke up that morning to beat the inevitable traffic. We even brought along our daughter and son-in-law, which is almost a miracle getting our daughter up that early. I've heard Buc-ee's described like this before. It's like Walmart and Cracker Barrel had a baby, a ginormous baby. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this place is huge. Of course, the Buc-ee's here in Sevierville is billed as the largest gas station in the world. But that title will only be held for a little bit longer. The company is already building a larger one. In fact, I think it's nearly completed, somewhere in the company's home state of Texas. I have been to a couple of Buc-ee's in Texas during my travels. It's an amazing place with great barbecue brisket sandwiches. However, there is already horrible traffic on Winfield Dunn Parkway and Exit 407 that will make visiting this store a very rare occasion for Denise and I. Thursday? Well, yesterday was a relaxation day for me. I was in the Goat Locker studio gathering up some finishing notes for today's episode, because it rained all day long here. And it was really time to sit back and take a load off after 3 weeks in Ardmore, Oklahoma, where nearly every day the temperatures were in the heat index zone of greater than 100 degrees. Most of my work during these engagements in the field is literally outside in a field somewhere. I work with these crews in the oil and gas industry that are servicing the wells, servicing already existing wells. So the hot and sweaty 3 weeks are behind me, but my next engagement will be in New Mexico, where it is just as hot, if not hotter. But it's a dry heat, they say. Yep, just like the kind of heat that is in your oven. But between hot and dry, as compared to hot and humid, I'll take hot and dry every time. Next week, I get to use the truck to haul some construction materials around, now that the spray and breadliner has been installed. I also put on a tonneau cover and other accessories to more personalize the beast. You see, I promised my daughter and her husband that I would install a shelving system in their garage while I was home this time. I would have done it earlier, but as you know, I did not have a vehicle that I could use to pick up the necessary lumber and other materials for that project. So that's what I'll be doing next week while I'm home. Oh, and I heard back from the Sevier County Republican Party, believe it or not. I asked them, beginning in April of this year, whether or not they plan to issue some sort of proclamation concerning Governor Lee's plan to introduce some sort of red flag law at the special session he called. I haven't received anything back from the county commissioners, though. The answer that came back from the Sevier County GOP chairman is disappointing, to say the least. Disappointing, but expected. While there are county Republican parties all across the volunteer state going on record against this special session, the Sevier County Republican Party Executive Committee has decided, in the chairman's words, to take a wait-and-see attitude. I've got a whole chain of emails between myself and the chairman on this issue. And as I said, I'm disappointed but not surprised by the response as to why the Republican Party here in Sevier County won't be taking action. At first, I was offended because of the initial response I had to my third follow-up email. It was condescending and rude. Par for the course, though, with how the party elite here in Sevier County treat non-executive committee Republicans, though. I have included screenshots of the emails between myself and the chairman of the Sevier County Republican Party in the video version of this week's podcast. I have shared the information with some constitutional groups that I am a member of. They also do not take kindly to the chairman's response. In fact, the Tennessee chapter of Restore Liberty has a post up that features the chairman of the Sevier County Republican Party. Keep in mind, folks, the chairman of the Sevier County GOP is none other than the county sheriff, a constitutional officer, the highest constitutional office in the county. As sheriff, he is supposed to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By taking a wait-and-see attitude to the governor's proposed red flag laws, that is definitely not defending the Constitution. It's abdicating your responsibility, a unique responsibility in his dual role of sheriff and chairman of the Sevier County GOP. Nor are his actions protecting the Constitution from the usurpations of the trans-publican that is sitting in the governor's office in Nashville. If you watch the video version of the podcast on Rumble or YouTube, you can see what regular Republican voters here in Sevier County have to deal with as it relates to the elected members of the party. And as you'll see in the screenshots, it starts with me writing an email to the newly elected chairman back on April 20th of this year, asking if the county Republican Party would consider releasing some sort of statement about Governor Lee's proposal of a red flag law. I even included a draft press statement to help guide them. It was not written by me entirely, but I used the press release of another county's GOP and tailored it for this county. Keep in mind the date, April 20th, 2023. On the 28th of April, I also forwarded to the chairman a resolution passed by another county here in Tennessee regarding the governor's proposed red flag law. I also asked about a time frame for when the organization's webpage would be updated. As of yesterday, it still remains outdated by more than a year. It has State Senator Art Swan listed on it as one of Sevier County's state legislators. The redistricting that was completed based upon the 2020 census went into effect in February of 2022. Yet here we sit, more than halfway through 2023, and this webpage is still not updated. It also still has the last executive committee members listed as being in place, as well as the previous GOP state executive committee members. On the news and event tab of their webpage, the only item listed is the Sevier County Lincoln Day dinner, which is fine in and of itself, except for the fact that it is advertising still for the February 17th, 2022 Lincoln Day dinner. You know, the chairman pledged he would work on that right away. I'm guessing the Sevier County GOP's definition of the term right away is completely different from the everyday Republican Party members' definition of right away. I also even offered in that email that I could use my platforms, both social media and podcasts, to help spread the word about any GOP events here in the county in the future. After all, the party's stated mission on its webpage is this, quote, "The objective of the Sevier County Republican Party is to elect Republicans to office while promoting the growth and acceptance of the Republican Party among all of the people of Sevier County," unquote. How do you promote the growth and acceptance of the Republican Party here in Sevier County if there are no public events and the only meetings they hold are the ones for executive committee members only? Well, you don't. That is on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. My next email to the chairman was on the 1st of May. In that email, I forwarded him a news article that reported at least 9 county GOP executive committees and county commissions had issued resolutions opposing the governor's plan for red flag laws. If you're keeping count, that is 3 emails so far on the topic of red flag laws. I was trying to be considerate of the chairman/sheriff's time, so my next email to him was on the 6th of May. And in that, I was asking him if there was another method of contacting the party itself without going through him, because it often took months, if ever, for somebody on the county executive committee to respond to an email sent to the one that often distributes information about county events. Gee, imagine that, right? If you are interested in sending the Sevier County Republican Party an email, hey, their email address is seviercountygop@gmail.com. But good luck getting a timely response to any email sent there. I sent an email to the new chairman and secretary on the 25th of May. I got a response to that on the 2nd of June, and also a response from the county GOP email address on the 3rd of June. So that was just a little bit more than a week. It was quite timely and surprising. Anyway, back to my request to the chairman of alternate, reliable, and timely methods of contacting the county GOP that was sent on the 6th of May. The chairman himself responded that same day. He informed me in that email that the executive committee would be addressing the red flag laws request at the next meeting. Keep that in mind. He responded to, hey, the executive committee would be addressing the red flag laws request at their next meeting. That's important. In fact, he used the words, quote, "I will provide a response as soon as the meeting is over," unquote. May 6th, 4th email discussing the topic of red flag laws. Now, I waited a month before following up to that reply. I believed, because how can anyone else outside of the executive committee know for sure, that they met once a month. I had only heard that from a member of the executive committee. So on the 6th of June, I sent the follow-up asking if the executive committee took any actions with regards to the governor's call for a special session to pass a red flag law. 5th email, same topic, no reply. Another month goes by, and I send another follow-up, this time on the 10th of July. I asked once again, quote, will the Sevier County GOP make an official statement concerning the governor's proposed red flag laws, unquote. 6th email, same topic, red flag laws. This time, though, I got a response. On the same day, the 10th of July. Shocking, I know. The chairman replies with this, quote, what red flag laws would you be referring to? Unquote. Now you get my gist here? Plenty of prior emails that talked about the red flag laws. He even said that he would address my concern about red flag laws with the executive committee, and he responds with that standalone sentence. Geez, is it all of a sudden that amnesia strikes him? Or has he not paid any attention to the news around the state? Both of those are highly unlikely. What this reply was meant to convey was nothing short of condescension, which I politely thanked him for because I have it on record now. Again, if you're watching the video version of this podcast on Rumble or YouTube, you can see screenshots of all of these back and forth emails. I keep the receipts. He replied to my response to his condescension the next day with his statement on the executive committee's position. That response acknowledged that he is actually aware of the governor's proposed red flag laws. He also spoke about empowering our legislators to do the right thing if the governor did propose something in the special session, meaning he is completely unaware of the state's constitution. The governor can only convene a special session for a specific purpose. This is from the state's constitution, Article 3, Section 9, dealing with the governor's powers. Quote, he may, on extraordinary occasions, convene the General Assembly by proclamation in which he shall state specifically the purposes for which they are to convene, but they shall enter on no legislative business except that for which they were specifically called together. Unquote. So, unless you have been living under a rock or are willfully blind, the actions of the governor on this matter are very much in the public record. There are other things to consider here as well. As I believe I mentioned when the sheriff was elected chairman in March of this year, I said that it could become problematic, and it would be problematic for multiple reasons. Not only is there now an intimidation factor that people have to take into consideration when addressing the county Republican Party Executive Committee. You only have to watch the news or scroll through the internet to see how easy it is in our republic for law enforcement to be weaponized against political opponents. And you know what? The members of the executive committee themselves are probably intimidated if they don't toe the line, as it were, with the chairman's positions, because the chairman is also the sheriff. And that goes along with this. The fact that the chairman's primary job, being the sheriff, probably doesn't allow for him to give sufficient attention to his role as the county Republican Party chairman, while the whole county is gearing up for what is possibly the most important election in our nation's history and a special session called to propose and pass a red flag law. I have it on good authority that the past 2 scheduled executive committee meetings were canceled at the last minute, meaning the executive committee has not met for months. Other county Republican parties are working hard. Yet here in Sevier County, well, you get the picture. What I and many others here in Sevier County and around the state predicted would happen is happening. I want to go on record here. I'm not suicidal, nor am I prone to breaking any laws. I also live outside the city limits of Sevierville, so my house falls under the sheriff's jurisdiction, not the Sevierville City Police. So, ladies and gentlemen, take note of those facts, please. I don't really expect any sort of retaliation or reprisal, but I am just getting the facts straight here. I always keep the receipts and the facts, as evidenced by the emails between myself and members of the Sevier County GOP that I shared on this week's episode. Now, for our neighboring county, Jefferson County, their Republican Party has publicly came out in opposition to the governor's plans, as well as numerous others across the state, as I mentioned earlier. And this is in addition to county commissions and other Republican Party or grassroots conservative organizations like Empower Jefferson coming out with proclamations against the governor's special session. Empowered Sevier, they're working on their proclamation this week and in next and hoping to get it published soon. Here in Sevier County, though, that would be a big nope, because the Republican Party of Sevier County is not concerned with the liberty of the county's residents. When the chairman informed me that it was the county executive committee's position to wait and see if the governor attempted to pass a red flag law, it was just equivocation and vacillation. Not only that, none of the members of the executive committee reached out to Republican voters here in the county to gauge our response. When the chairman stated that they wanted to, quote-unquote, wait and see if the governor even attempted to pass a red flag law, I am betting that he assumed the voters here don't really pay attention to what is going on in Nashville, because the governor actually did try to get a red flag law passed during the regular session of the last General Assembly. Also included in the video version of this podcast is the 13-page proposal that came out of Governor Lee's office earlier this year. The General Assembly did not act on it, and for good reason, too, because it is unconstitutional. Article 11, which is the miscellaneous provisions of the Tennessee Constitution, Section 16 states the following, quote, "The Declaration of Rights hereto prefixed is declared to be part of the Constitution of the state and shall never be violated on any pretense whatever. And to guard against transgression of high powers we have delegated, we declare that anything in the Bill of Rights contained is accepted out of the general powers of the government and shall forever remain inviolate," unquote. Now, the Declaration of Rights mentioned in this article of the Constitution is referring to Article 1 of our Constitution. The we that is mentioned in there, that means we the people, we the sovereign. Now, just what would a red flag law do? How would it not only violate the 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution, not to mention the Supreme Court's decision handed down in Bruin case last year, how would a red flag law violate the Tennessee Constitution? Well, we have to go back to Article 1 of our Constitution, the Declaration of Rights. That is the very first article in our state's Constitution, and in particular, let's discuss Sections 7, 8, and 26. They are as follows. Section 7, that the people shall be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and possessions from unreasonable searches and seizures, and that general warrants, whereby an officer may be commanded to search suspected places without evidence of the fact committed, or to seize any person or persons not named whose offenses are not particularly described and supported by evidence, are dangerous to liberty and ought not be granted. Section 8 continues with, that no man shall be taken or imprisoned or deseized of his freehold, liberties, or privileges, or outlawed or exiled, or in any manner destroyed or deprived of his life, liberty, or property, but by the judgment of his peers or the law of the land. And then we go into Section 26, that the citizens of this state have a right to keep and bear arms for their common defense, but the legislature shall have power by law to regulate the wearing of arms with a view to prevent crime. Now, any quote-unquote red flag law violates all of that. and is exactly what Governor Lee proposed. I also provided the chairman with a copy of that proposal, which I am quite sure he was already aware of and possibly in possession of. The governor's proposal is the specific purpose that he has called for a special session under the authority granted him in Article 3, Section 9 of the Constitution. This special session is just around the corner, folks. It's next month. And these local officials will have to take a public stand on whatever comes out of it. Now, I do agree with the chairman/sheriff that our legislators should be empowered. And, as I informed the chairman, empowerment comes with guidelines or guardrails. In my experience, both as a command senior enlisted leader in the United States Navy, as well as in my current vocation as a leadership consultant and coach, when empowering people, those in leadership positions must place guardrails upon that empowerment. Left and right limits, so to speak, that will aid the empowerment in the direction leadership wants their people to operate. Our GOP legislators can and should be empowered to perform their duties in elected office, but they are empowered by the people who will elect them, as well as by the party that endorses them. The Republican Party platform provides significant details on those guardrails. All empowerment comes with guardrails. Always. Outside of the GOP's stated platform, guardrails come in the form of direction from the party or we the people that elected them. And if you do a bit of trend analysis on the actions of elected Republicans in the General Assembly, as well as the actions of officials in the state and county Republican Party, you know what their public stand will be once they assemble in Nashville for the special session. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our liberties will once again be eroded. Contrary to very recent SCOTUS decisions, and here I will refer back to the episode last week where we discussed about if you live by the courts, you also have to die by the courts. But it also violates the liberties secured by the state and federal constitutions. Ladies and gentlemen, liberty is ours. It is granted to us by our Creator. It is not something that can be given or taken by governments or by documents. It is also not something that political parties can take away because they have sold their souls to muddied interests. For the residents of Sevier County, I gave you the email address. Demand your local Republican Party officials take a stand. And don't sit idly by if they don't take a stand either. Contact every Republican voter you know in this county and let them know about the shenanigans these executive committee members are engaged in. It is our liberty, and we demand they honor, respect, and work to ensure government secures it. Well, folks, that's it for this week. Sorry I didn't get into too much detail about the Freedom Fest. If you weren't there, you missed a great event. I highly encourage you to check out Tennessee Conservative News, the Solari Report, Empowered Sevier, Empowered Jefferson. Get involved. Take a stand in the arena. In closing, we have this week's wisdom from God's Word, and today it comes to us from Isaiah 10, 1 and 2. Woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees and the writers who keep writing oppression, to turn aside the needy from justice and to rob the poor of my people of their right, that widows may be their spoil and that they may make the fatherless their prey. The actions, and more often than not, the inactions by elected officials and the ruling elite in the political parties work to oppress the people of this great nation. There is no more time left. All of us have to take a stand in the arena. Each and every one of us. Our nation and some of our states are inching us closer and closer to complete tyranny. Going after the means with which we can defend ourselves against tyranny is the most important goal of these big government tyrants, these communists. Because once you are unarmed, you are completely helpless. There has not been a law passed to date in this nation that has prevented a criminal or a mentally ill person that is intent on causing harm and death from perpetuating these heinous acts. None whatsoever. What every single one of these gun control laws has done is to make it harder and harder for you and I, the law-abiding citizens, to arm ourselves and to defend ourselves, which is the ultimate goal, my friends. As I have stated before, they aren't after our guns to make us safer. They are after our guns to better control us. Iniquitous decrees and oppression are their methods of gaining complete control. And only you are standing in the way. Will you stand there, or will you let them roll over you? If you live here in Sevier County, it is very important that you share this episode with every Republican voter that you know. We need to make everybody aware of just what is going on with our county Republican Party, how they are not serving the interests of Republicans here in this county. They are only serving their interests. Once again, thank you all for listening this week, and I pray that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Until next week, stand in the arena with me, Reveille. It's time to wake up.